welcome everybody to the second of the four fixture and print team training sessions. Thanks for everyone for all the presenters for the first session. This is the second of four. We're going to kick it off with the fixture team, and Colette Dunlap's going to talk about our drawings refresher, just how to read a drawing, how to go over it, what are the main things that we're going to talk about in understanding the drawing, and then we're going to kick it over to the print team, and we're going to talk about how to cook a distro, prototypes, and handoff forms. So with that, we'll get started with Colette.
Woo!
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't know me extremely well, but those people that do know I don't like to get up in front of people and talk. So if I stutter or say shit,
We'll edit it out.
you'll edit it out. Thank you. I wanted to just promote the class for the Navigating Engineering Drawing. If you haven't signed up for it, please try to sign up for it. Repeating the information is always great. I'm just going to go over something kind of high level today. Dan is going to be presenting at the third session, I believe, on drawing, so you'll probably be repeating the information that I'm about to say. But I just wanted to point out a couple things that I see or I look for when I'm looking at a drawing. But please sign up for this class if you haven't done so yet. If you want to go to the drawings I chose, you'll notice have print on them because I figured this is probably a good thing to talk about. Just a simple drawing of a heat vent part, but a couple things that I wanted to point out are just the key areas of a drawing. I know you probably know this, but I just want to go over it one more time. So up on the top left corner in red, we have the bill of materials. This is what tells us what's on the drawing, what makes up that part. And then in the upper right-hand corner, we have a rev level. Everyone should know what the rev level is, but if you don't, every time an engineer goes in and touches that drawing for something, even if we're asking them to remove a bump on or make the drawing, the part itself, O3 larger, they're going to rev it out. So that's what that means in the upper right-hand corner. You'll have the engineer that made that change. It's just a history. The title block down below in green, that's kind of like our legalities are on the far left-hand side, our name. What I pay strong attention to are our tolerances, especially, Allison's nodding her head, yes. We come from the fabrication world. We've had to live and breathe these tolerances. So when you're going down and you're looking at parts and you have a part that needs to fit inside of another part, those tolerances become critical. If you know that you have something that needs to fit inside of another part, you need to make sure that we're relaying that information to our engineer so they can make their dimensions critical. Then we have other information down here, the title of the part itself, finishes. A lot of times on this top level, the overall image of the part, you'll see NAs in the finish. Don't let that bother you. Go to the next page. You'll see the actual finish of that part. Then we have the part name, our SEPH, our SFOS, drawing names down there. Again, you have a rev level in the lower right-hand corner, which should match the rev level up on the revision block. In the middle of the drawing, this is your drawing view. This is giving you an overall view of the assembled piece. It gives you overall dimensions, a 3 by almost 3.19 part. It shows that there's an image on that part. So this should tell you that at some point in time, print is going to be applied to this part and then it's going to get cut. Do you want to go to the next page? Oh, I'm sorry. No, wasn't there a page 2?
Let's see.
There should have been a page 2. Sorry, that wasn't clear. Again, we no longer have a bomb, but this is the actual flat part before it actually gets bent and tape gets applied to the bottom. One thing that I wanted to call out on this overall part is right here where it says first surface print. A lot of times it'll either say first surface print, second surface print. If it's not an actual art being applied on there and it's a flood of color, it should say flood of color first surface, flood of color second. Obviously not. Well, it could be second surface if it's PETG. We have our IDs. ID is inside dimension, and then we have the angle that the part is going to be bent to. Over on the right-hand side, you have the overall cut, when it lays flat before it actually gets bent up. Any questions on what you see here before I go on to the next page? Of course, Lana.
Okay, so just as I don't know, I missed the first one, so I apologize, but right, you've got a side view, a front view, a top view. So there's different views that you're seeing there, all good dimensions that you need. And then Colette, do you want to talk about the tolerances? You said you pay a lot of attention to them, that it gets into those decimals. Do we want to talk through that?
Sure.
And what it means?
I will. Can I go to the next drawing
Yeah.
though? Because that's where I want to show specifically tolerances and why they're important. But great lead-in.
We didn't practice.
No, we didn't. We just know each other. Yeah, you can go to the next drawing. Some of us are living and breathing this one. Heather, shaking her head. I just wanted to show this one because this one is the SD mask and cap, and look at how big our bomb is. Those are a lot of parts that make up that fixture. One thing, I don't know, can you zoom, can everybody see like those top numbers? They start out with SEPH 0341, and then it goes into SEPH 0813. And then we're down here right now on 1561. Does anybody know why those numbers are different? Besides the fixture type. I want to hear from a print person. Would you have any idea why those numbers would be different?
Is it different updates? Yeah.
They are different updates, yep. So the 0341 is when we originally rolled the fixture out, and I want to say that was way back in 2017, if not earlier than that. So that part has been out there for many years. The 0813 was the next update that we did. There could have been other updates in there, but that particular part is still out there today.
It's something that already exists that you can use
Over and over
again. It's been mastered, well,
Well, to be
to this point.
Yeah,
Okay.
and when we get to the next page, I'll point out those parts. But when we rolled out the 341, again, that was rolled out probably back in 2017, 2018. That particular part still exists in stores today. It hasn't changed out, it hasn't updated, it's still there. The 0813 was an additional add-on, and that was probably in, I want to say maybe 19, when that part was brought into play. That piece is still out there today. They're both metal pieces, so they're sturdy. Do you want to go to the next page? And then you can zoom out. Page 2 of our drawings is a blow-up of all the parts that are within that bomb. The parts that I was speaking to, sorry, I'm gonna come over here for just a quick minute. This back panel piece, that is the very first piece that we rolled out. This pegboard piece is the second piece that we rolled out. Those two pieces are in store yet today. We just keep adding on. We keep doing updates. I think we've probably updated, overhauled this one at least from the time that we rolled it out, I wanna say that we're on probably our 4th large overhaul on this part that's been sitting out there. So what's great is that we have, you know, the initial rollout, but we have all these updates that we make to this part. Do you wanna go to the next page?
Very similar to the graphic side, right? You guys might roll out back panels, but then your front graphic strips are changing. Same thing that's happening here. That back panel used to have all acrylic shelves, wood shelves at one point, but now they're metal shelves, right? So we're updating it, but anytime we can keep that core structure and not, you know, keep it in store, obviously we're helping the budget.
Right.
So is that first two pieces something that would go to like a new store then?
Yep.
And then everything afterwards is where you're changing the look, the style, the design of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. This doesn't always occur on page 3. Sephora Collection has asked, a lot of brands ask for this, but they want to see like an overall view of what it looks like, and we happen to do their planograms for this particular setup, so that's why this page is really important to us. But this page is just showing all of the comps that are in place and what the names are, their positions in them. So it's just a really pretty view for everyone. Notice the rev level down on the bottom, L. I know some of you have gotten much, you know, lower in the alphabet with that one, but yeah, rev L on this one.
Adding like the rev level thing, anytime it was changed for like, there's all these different modules, anytime the client came back and said, oh, we actually want these masks to sit on shelf 1 instead of shelf 3, like that's a move in the engineering drawing, that's the rev level change. Maybe it, like the part doesn't change itself, but where things are positioned is gonna
Correct.
rev it up.
Anytime the engineer has to touch that drawing package, it gets revved. This is the metal shelf that hooks onto that pegboard. So there's these little brackets that go in there, and then this metal shelf hangs from it. What I wanted to point out here is that we have different views. In the drawing view, you're looking down on it. So if you were to take the shelf off and basically hold it in your hands, look down on it, that's the view that you're looking at, and it's basically giving you an outside dimension of that shelf. This view in the lower left-hand corner is straight on. So you're seeing the front of the shelf, you're seeing the cutouts in the back, you're basically looking inside the cavity. I've seen it and I've not seen it, but a lot of times they'll call out, if it's a back view, they'll say back view on it. Side views, I have seen side views, it just depends on the engineer, but this one isn't showing a side view, or the name of it being side view, but you can tell that it's side view. On some other parts, it may be a little bit harder to tell what you're looking at, and they'll descript it out as being a side view. But one thing I wanted to point out here is that this is section AA. They circle it and they blow it up so you can see specifically what it is in that lower corner. And all they're really saying down there is there's this metal rod that makes it look like it's hooking into the pegboard, and it's extending past the back of the shelf a hair. Yeah. I'm sorry, will you go back one? Notice the rev level on this particular shelf is B. Now before, when we were on the overall drawing package, that was at L. You will have different rev levels for your overall package and for your independent parts. So don't let it freak you out if all of a sudden you come to this one, you say, wait a minute, this is on B. I was on L for the overall package. You have an overall package rev, and then you have individual part revs.
Can you show how section AA corresponds to that view on the left? Those arrows.
Do you just mean, sorry?
So like the little arrows. So
Just wanted to see it larger.
So like that section AA on the right
Yep.
corresponds to the line with the arrows on the left. So it's like they cut the shelf in half, and that's the section that you're seeing. So you
The
can see some of the
bottom
internals and stuff.
The bottom left image.
Yeah,
Nope, that whole wedge shape.
The
the
one
whole, I'm sorry, Ricky, I'm not understanding what you're asking me to do.
Come on
up.
up. This is your moment.
So like this whole view here, section AA, corresponds to this right here. So they cut it in half here. And that's what you're seeing here. So it's not like a full side view from over here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We don't need Dan anymore. No, that's awesome. Thanks for saying that.
So the other thing is that when you went back to screen, it's just understanding that this is on the upper left there, that's your assembly of that part 1566, is it? -010. So all the parts there are the parts that make up that specific drawing. And you would see the 010 on the first page as part of that bottom.
Yeah, and I took, because I know that Dan's gonna be going through drawing more extensively than what I was, I just wanted to point out a couple things that I pay attention to. So I took out a lot of pages out of this drawing package because I think it's almost 72 pages long. And I narrowed it down to, I think, well, last night I had it down to 26 and I still thought that was too many. But what I wanted to point out is, Jim, you're absolutely correct. This part assembly has a bomb at the top, and each part that gets attached to this shelf is called out with a separate drawing. So when I was talking about these little steel rods that make it look like it's a peg, that is specifically called out as a decorative rod 015. And then there will be an actual drawing for that actual peg, so everyone understands completely how they're supposed to build this part. But one part that I did want to mention is the front channel, and this is where my tolerances that I'm looking for come into effect. So this is the front channel that gets attached to the front of the shelf, and this is where our paper graphic slides into. Can everyone see that? Can you, enlarge just a little bit. I just want to make sure everyone can see the channel itself, because there's a lot of dimensions that are associated to that channel. And if you can't, it's okay. That's good. That's fine.
There you go. There's the channel.
Perfect. So we have a couple IDs there. We have an ID of the actual opening for the channel, which is 1.618. And then we have an ID of the actual slide-in area of that channel, which is 1.868. Now we have to slide a graphic in there, but we also need to take into consideration that that dimension of 1.868 can have a tolerance to it, because someone has, can you scroll down just a little? In our tolerances, it will tell you specifically if it's one number beyond the decimal point, you have basically 0.05. Sorry, this is metal, it's a different tolerance. Pay attention to that as well. Your tolerances will be different depending on the materials that you use. But basically what it's saying is we have 3 decimal places. We have 3 numbers beyond the decimal place. That means we have a tolerance of plus or minus 0.01, which means that ID can grow by 0.01 or it can decrease by 0.01. So right now we are at 1.86. We could go up to 1.87. We could go down to 1.85. If you want to go to the next page. This is our drawing. for our graphic that slides into that channel. This right now is drawn at 1.86. What if our tolerances are off? Will that graphic slide in there? No. Always pay attention to your tolerances and if it needs to be critical.
So at that point, you would tell the engineer that that piece is critical?
I believe, and if Trista, when she goes over die lines, back in the day when I had to do my own die lines, I always added in a little bit of slop to my die lines because I knew, and I probably added in too much back in the day as to where my graphics were probably a little too sloppy in there. But I always, when I created my own die lines, made a little bit of slop in there so I knew that it would always slide in. I believe the graphic design team adds in a little bit of tolerance there too.
So does this page then go to the graphic design team to let them know what you set the tolerances for?
Yes.
So this is like their template to start that die line?
Yes. But your engineers will do that as well.
Yeah.
And Allison, Jenny, Ricky, Heather, everyone that was involved in this project, our graphics slid in just fine. And we also sent graphics to the manufacturer for QCing to make sure that everything slid in just fine.
Does that mean that there's the potential that the die line size might be a little bit different from the drawing size then? If they're adding like what you call slop to?
When I mean slop, it's not much.
Okay,
Not much at all,
okay.
no.
They
Also-
shouldn't, they shouldn't be, it should be matching the DXF file,
Okay,
that's
okay.
it though.
Yeah. Whatever the DXF file, that's what they built the die lines off of.
Got
Again, this is paper, it's a little flexible.
Yeah.
If we were trying to slide in acrylic, you could probably see a difference there.
Okay.
But again, Dan will, I'm sure will go over all that with you. Or if you attend the manufacturing, the engineering drawing, of course, they'll probably go over that too.
So
If you
can
wanna
I ask a question, because it wasn't obviously this iteration, but I worked on the iteration of the SC mask and caps. And with all the powder coating that's then done, that impacted, I remember, the tolerances. So we, last minute had to switch materials because all of a sudden 48 or 24 point cardstock didn't fit because the powder coat was too thick.
Yeah, what happens there is the paint builds up if it doesn't completely drain. So yeah, in the corners where the paint can build up, yeah, it decreases that opening even more. That is go back to the manufacturer and make sure that they're checking and QCing their parts on their end. Hence why we sent graphics up to, no, we sent graphics, these were actually done in China. So we sent all of our graphics to China and asked them to check them. And again, we're dealing with paper, so it'll be a little easier for them to slide in and out. But if you were sliding in something more rigid, it could be an issue. Which is why it's important to always QC our parts with the graphics in it. I just wanted to show this page because this is a module that sits inside of one of the shelves. It has some build downs. And the next page, I wanted to point out where it calls out the flood of color, where it says first surface flood print of a Pantone. A lot of times we don't necessarily know at the kickoff it's going to be a flood of color or if it's going to be art, true art. But if we do know it's going to be a flood of color, we let the engineers know right away so they can get it on the print, or it'll just say first surface print. Sometimes you could see where it says critical on there as well, if something needs to be cut out of the art critically. I think there's another page. Oh, no, last one.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything, Lana? Tolerances? Does anybody have any other questions?
Maybe the bubble numbers on like the page above this. Just how those correspond to the drawing.
Oh. So in our BOM, all of the parts are called out by a number sequence, and then, so what Ricky is referring to is this number 1 here. If you look up at the top, it's pointing out that it's the top plate. Number 2 are the gussets down here where it says number 2 times 3. What that 3 means is that if you go up to number 2 and follow it all the way across, that it's material, the size, the thickness, it's quantity 3. So everyone knows that they need to cut 3 of them. And then number 3 there is the build down support. That's just right here in the front and one in the back. And then number 4 is the magnet that goes on there. So for every assembly drawing, you have the individual parts. It'll be called out in the BOM what parts those are. If there's multiple parts, it'll call out a 3 times or a 2 times. And then every page after that will be an actual drawing of that individual part.
Amanda, raise your hand.
What's that?
Amanda, raise your hand.
Oh, hi Amanda.
Hi. Are you going to be talking about, Colette, how print materials are always going to be, substrates are always going to be shown on an engineering drawing in inches?
I wasn't planning on it, but I can.
It's kind of interesting how a lot of our substrates are ordered in millimeters.
Sure. So what Amanda is referring to is EPVC. That's what this material is. If you go in PACE and see in inventory, it's called out as 3 mil EPVC or Sintra expanded Comatex. On drawings, we do not have the opportunity, the engineers do not have the opportunity to call it out as 3 mil. We need to actually call it out as the decimal place that it is. So 3 mil is the equivalent of 1/1/8. Same thing with 6 mil, the equivalent of a 1/4 inch, which could be 236, 220.
And on the print side, I think there's a chart floating around of that conversion. If you see the 0.118 on the drawing, what that means like in the hub or in PACE, what you're ordering.
I always use Google.
I was gonna say.
Yep. I lose paper, so I just use Google.
That's probably smarter, honestly.
Yeah.
And then, one other thing that might be important to mention is if you go back to the top level, those numbers that are not, they're old, you may have to go out to those drawings to actually see the details of that. So if you're looking for something that has an older number, it may not be in this drawing pack, and you might have to go and find that drawing, just so everyone knows.
So what Erica's saying is that when the engineers pull together this drawing packet and give you a nice, clean, big packet of 76 pages of, here's your main level, here's what it's gonna look like when it's built, and then from there on, here are your assemblies and all the parts and pages that, make up this drawing packet. What's not going to be included in that big, long 76-page document are the ones outside of the 5161 drawings. So the very first 341 and 813 parts that are located there will not get pulled in. If you want those in your drawing packet, you have to manually pull those in yourself. We don't. At least I would hope nobody would do that because it's a part that's existing out there and there's really no need to.
Does the middle number correlate to what is that project is updating?
Mm-hmm.
Which would
Yes.
then be equal to like a dynamic view project?
Yes. Yep.
I have a question. To find these drawings, is it best to go on the drive or on the Teams folder?
It's best to go out to the Google Drive and type in what you're looking there. Does everybody know how to do that? Yeah, because I
Can
can.
we show just in case people don't?
Sure. Kyle, do you want to pull up?
So I'm doing it wrong because I was told to do it wrong, so I just continued on that. I'm open to new things. You remember showing up the teapot person? They're like, hey, you're on a teapot project. I'm like, I had, and they're like, here's where our drawings are at. These are dialogues, these are AI files.
So you can
The drawings in
search,
my handout form, that's it.
you can search here many different ways. If you know your drawing number, you can type in that drawing number. So if Kyle types in SEPH dash 1561, he'll come to and hit enter. And then what I always do, but this is just an annoyance that I do, I go to type, drop down the type. Do you want me to try?
Sure. Show me what you do.
Uh-oh. I go to type, and then I change it to folders, so I can see the folders that are associated to that drawing, that package that I'm looking for. And as soon as you find your folder that you are looking for, you just double click on it, go to the PDF drawings, and then there is a plethora of, drawings that are gonna be out here, and they'll just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling.
And you had asked about looking at it on the Teams drive. Even if there is a drawing in that Teams drive, do not assume that it's the latest. We shouldn't actually be saving drawings out into our Teams drive. If people are, they might have a reason for it, or it might not be the full drawing pack. It might just be the dumbed down version that we send to the client. So always go out to the Google Drive where you might be looking at something that is out of date.
I don't know if that's ever been very clear though, because on the print side, frequently we would be going to the folder structures
Yeah.
to look for those drawings.
Should never do
and
it.
so,
Should never do
you
it.
know,
Printer doesn't necessarily know what the drawing is for every update, so I think that's something like, some people save them out to the drive, so just go to, the Perry print drive, look at your job folder and find it. Other times, if you know what the drawing is, it's super convenient to find it in Google Drives, but if there's something that you're picking up midway through after it's been kicked off, you don't know what the drawing number is in the print side, so it's difficult, so we don't have anything else to go off of outside of what's in the drive. So if there was a standard, I think that would be easier for everybody.
I think that's been a change over the last couple of years.
I would say, and the Fixture team can correct me if I'm misleading anyone, on your die line, you have a drawing number called out on there. If you're looking for a specific drawing, that's the first place I would look, is on your die line. And then go out, and if you wanna further look at that actual drawing, type that number into Google Drive and look at it that way. I personally, because you're gonna have people that like to save drawings out there, but not everyone on the Fixture team does that, because it's storing it in two separate places.
It's dangerous because it might not be the latest. It's taking up a ton of space on our servers, and it just logically doesn't make sense when you can find it in other places.
Well, on our
That's
team-
assuming you know the drawing number though. But
It
if
is
you've got your
the
die
update,
lines, you've
right?
got your.
Your drawing number.
You guys, I think you're all saying we had no idea you should go to the Google Drive, right, to find these drawings, is that right?
Yeah, this is new information to the printing. Some people probably use the drive, but it's not anything that was trained out to do it that way. And I would also then wonder perhaps in our folder structure, why is there a section for engineering drawings if we shouldn't be using that section?
So our team uses that folder, and there's another folder in there called sent to client. So that's just kind of a record of what was sent to the client at a quick glance, because we might have sent them Rev A, Rev D, Rev F, but then after Rev F, like all the changes that we made might not really pertain to the client. We don't need them to know about it. They don't need to know. It's just gonna confuse them and concern them if we send those, because they're issues that we're fixing on our own. So like, the drawing might be all the way to Rev L like this one, but in the sent to client folder, it only goes to like Rev D.
Okay, then what about on the print, on the handoff form, could we just put the link to the drive on there?
No.
You can't?
There is
Already so much work.
Oh, okay. So instead, I guess the print team is
Yeah,
that
the
went into your
print team's being
folders.
set up to find the correct information. If it's in the handoff form, great. If it's not,
direct the print team where to go.
So I think so then on the handoff form, it should just be a word that says, go to Google Drive, right?
Well, we already put the drawing number on there.
If the drawing number's on there,
Yeah,
if, once
then you go to Google Drive.
they know how to get on the Google
Yeah.
Drive, it's fine.
So I think we just need to walk through that. That's
Let's
just
just change the process, so that's where we go to find drawings.
Yes, exactly.
And then
It'll be
maybe
way
just put a
easier.
note in on that section in the folder, like fixture team only, like,
Yep.
no
It's,
print
and
team.
really, guys, it's the master, right? That's your source of truth, right? And so any changes that are being made, we all know, things change every day, and by the time they might have given you the handoff form, there could have been another change, right? So it is nice to go to that master data area and make sure we're getting the most correct information. It is really easy to get to the Google Drive, you guys, so maybe we'll just take another minute to kind of go through that, to type in that number like Colette did. And maybe we just have to try it a few times, but it is a really easy process once you get used to it.
On the fragrance side, when we get our handoff form and die lines, the drawings, the final drawings are attached in the email, so it's all in one spot, and we know we're pulling all of the correct information, download it, and start working on our protos or production.
So you're
I
giving
found that
drive
really
files?
helpful. I don't know. It's all in one spot for us then, we're not like
Attention to the email.
searching for each part.
The handoff email, we attach the drawings and the guidelines.
So they're not using the Google Drive.
Those are when we're actually handing off. They still should be using the latest, but that is truly what we're handing off to them.
I know for me too, though, like if there's a piece like the one Colette had showed, like that heat vent piece, that's kind of like an assembly where it shows like the full exploded, the flat view, but then it also has, the heat vent, section of it as well. Like Ryan is the one who actually showed me where to find stuff on the drive, and so I've been using that, which has been a huge help for me. But you can just throw that into the drive and it'll actually show you the assembly for just that piece too. So you're not having to pull the entire drawing package, you're just able to find the assembly for that one piece, which we use all the time for when we're uploading or writing our hub orders, and they just need to see, the flat size, but then they can also see how it bends and tapes when they're finishing it. So something else that I have found very helpful.
One thing Mickey just asked too is that, like, if you're looking at the Google Drive, and we're talking a lot about needing to use the latest rev, how would he know what the latest rev is? But the answer is, the Google Drive will only have the latest rev. As soon as the engineers rev something, the old one disappears, the new one goes up. So you never have to worry about not having the latest.
You don't, but there is a slight lapse in time in that.
Yeah, it's
So
like-
if all of a sudden
yeah.
you hear from the engineer that it's updated, give it a little bit of time because it truly doesn't get updated to the Google Drive yet.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's
When
not
you're
instant.
in the Google Drive, you'll see when you open that PDF folder, you'll see the complete drawing, and then you'll see all the parts, PDFs below that. So if you wanted to see the whole 72 pages,
You can click on every
that,
single one of those
or you
drawings.
can do each individual.
Yeah. The only other thing I was gonna say about the Google Drive is if you don't know a number, if you don't, and you're just looking for something, maybe a past project that you did, if you type in ALO, and if you go to my little trick of switching it to folders, you'll see all of the ALO projects, drawings that are out there. I think it happened to me on the top of my head. Yeah, just a brand or L'Occitane or whatever you're looking for.
I have a question, and I'm just stupid, but this is safe space. So sometimes I'll get a handoff form, and it's not necessarily wrong, but I'll get a handoff form for, like, let's say an assembly has 4 parts that I need to order in it. But my handoff form has the assembly as a whole part number and not the individual parts within it. So if I went to the drive and just put in that whole assembly number, would that give me each individual part that I need to order? Or do I need to then look at that, look at those different numbers, look into each single one that I'm getting?
You need to look into each single one you're getting, so that assembly and the BOM will show you each of those individual parts.
Okay. That's just kind of investigating. I don't know. But
It
Yeah,
is,
and
yeah.
hopefully, on the handoff, it is only listing the individual parts. Because the assembly, let's say, is 040.
Yeah.
The part I need you to do is 041. And that's just the one that when you pull it up, it says right on there, first surface print, second surface print with what, whatever. And it's kind of a note to self to remember on our end to make sure that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Because even on an estimate form, the top of the form is the assemblies you are gonna be producing. But that blended area, which is the print fixture, are the specific parts.
Yeah, and I think it's also just,
Yeah.
on both ends, just staying consistent with
Yeah.
that, because I will still get handoffs that have the full assembly number, and I wouldn't, I guess right now, know to go into each individual part, where if I have a drawing, I'll kind of just ignore the assembly number and go into each individual page and part that I need to look at.
And then if you looked at the die lines, so even though on the handoff form, you were given the overall assembly, the die lines themselves would call out the individual parts that make up that assembly.
Yeah.
That's why I personally would go straight to the die line to get my information on the parts that you need to print produce.
Yeah.
The assembly is giving you the overall picture of how it's all gonna come together. Your die lines are calling out the individual parts.
Where does the print team get the dialing files from? Do you guys go into the Google Drive to get that?
Our
or
folder
no?
drive.
Where
Yeah,
Fixture?
when you go into the server, it actually has the die line folder, that's where we're pulling them from.
That's what your system's for.
Yeah, the Google, Drive,
Has the DXF files.
right,
Yeah.
but I don't think those would help them at all. Right, we can't open it either.
We can use them if we absolutely need to, and drop them in for pre-press, but we can't open them and
Right.
use them, so it's not a good verification tool.
And if there's a provision, like you get a handoff that says, hey, order, this is your specs, but then it's like, oh, wait, I don't have a dial-in fade yet, but I've got a DXF file. We can't open it, so we don't know what changed, so we don't know if it was a size change, we don't know if it's an internal cut was added, removed, like we're completely blind with it. You can go in and get them pre-flighted and have them create a PDF if that takes a couple
Another-
hours probably.
Another quick tip is that Google will preview a DXF. So if you go onto that Google Drive, go into the main folder, go to the DXF folder, and open it still in the Google browser, it'll show you the visual.
I can't open it either.
So if you don't,
You can't always read it.
yeah, you can take a screenshot there or just look at it or.
I feel like sometimes engineers create PDFs too of the occasionally.
You can also drop it into, I think, the AI to PDF top folder.
Oh. And it works in there.
I'm pretty sure. It's been years since I tried.
All right, so more to come with all of that, but that's the point of all of us getting together is to have these discussions. This is only the starting point. It's not like we're gonna break away and then we're just totally separate. We're bringing everyone together so we can be open and go, okay, well, what does each team need to be successful? So this is the starting point. This is the starting point for just the drawings portion of it. Now we're gonna get into more of a cooking industrial, prototypes and handoff form, depending on what we have for timing, I guess. But there's 2 more sessions too. But then that doesn't mean that we can't all get together and discuss whatever we want. We're talking about ideas of like breakout sessions for process and stuff like that too. So unless there's any other questions on drawings for now, we can go on to the next piece. No? Thanks, Claude.
Here, I thought it was gonna be quick.
Okay, we'll kick it over to Haley Rowledge and Haley Ray.
Sure, do you wanna quit presenting?
Yep.
Share my screen. Alright, I was told everyone wanted to learn how to cook a distro on the print side, so that's what I'm gonna be showing you. And bear with me, I am gonna go through every step. Every single one. Just kidding. Okay. I will do my best to make this as big as I can, but our distros have expanded quite a bit, so just let me know if you can't see. But basically, I'm just gonna be cooking this quick little Dior tower. As you see, there's a back panel here. Oh, this is lagging. Some 5x7s, 3 strips, and then some tray liners. I don't know if everyone's familiar with the towers, but I'm just gonna kind of show you these. These do provide some finishing options too, so I thought it was a good one to kind of just show how our distro templates work and everything like that. So as you know, we would go to our dynamic grid and go ahead and pull a distro. This is an old update, so it's not actually on here, so I can't pull it. But one thing I did want to note is when we pull distros from dynamic view, which I'm sure everyone has seen, we have to make our store numbers a value. For some reason, Sephora's distros, they come in weird. So on the print side, we have to do all these VLOOKUPs and stuff. So that's a huge step in our process that's kind of a little extra, but it's okay. So we'll forgive them.
It's annoying.
Yeah, okay, you said it, it's annoying. All right, so let's just pretend I pulled this distro from here. This is kind of what I'm seeing. So this is the department, but this is what I'm talking about with having to select all of these and then make them number values, so convert them to number to be able to successfully do our VLOOKUP on the print side. All right, so we have our distro, we have the store number, and then we have our CPF fixture, which is actually what we're going to be pulling over to our print side kitting distro. And then we'll have our distro here. Whoops, wrong one. Don't look at it. Oh, of course. There it is. Okay, so this is our print side kitting distro template. I do have some columns hidden just because it's ginormous and you don't need to see those right now. But I did kind of want to just go over high level of what we're looking at here. Our distros affect a lot of different departments at TBG, as you're probably all aware. And our wonderful data team, shout out Kat and Katie, has set this up and worked with us to set up formulas and things like that. And we want to keep our data as clean as humanly possible for our location key and retrofits and just pulling all SKUs and everything like that. So when we cook our distro, we will go in and enter in the project manager. You can just put like an initial, so I'll just put HR. We'll have our label description. This is for kitting. Basically, they're going to polybag all of our parts together, slap a label on it, and they're pulling that info from the label description row. And then the quantity per labels. The new store stuff I'm not going to get into right now. Sorry, Hillary, but it's too much. And then here's where the data really sets in is department. So we should not be pulling the department from our dynamic view because it's not accurate. We need to actually go into our distro, and this is why the seasonal tower is also a good one too. Go into our distro and pull up that department. So fragrance is department, typically department 20 and 30, 20 for women's, 30 for men's. But the seasonal tower is an animated piece, so this is actually department 10. And this is huge for our data team, and they like to remind us a lot of it. But it's a learning experience.
With smiles.
Yes, they're so nice about it. So we'll actually put in department 10, even though this tower is a women's Dior tower in fragrance. Can get a little confusing, but that's why it's very important to go ahead and open our raw distros, find that department, and you can just copy and paste it right into our distro here. And then the other big key piece is the description and lookup code here. We have a little blue blocker, and this basically separates out our brands on our distros. So as you all probably know, we'll have multiple brands on one print kitting distro. This won't just be a Dior seasonal tower thing that goes to kitting. This will be Dior, and if Armani updates, and L'Oreal, whoever else. So we want to be able to section off little parts of our distro. And this is also pulled from the data team, so we want to go ahead and pull in that department. So the brand is on our distro here. Again, this is a Dior tower, but Dior is not our brand in this case. It's seasonal tower too. So we can just go ahead and paste that there. So that's kind of set up now for our data team to be able to successfully pull this and keep our location key and everything up to date. So now's the fun part. We get to actually cook our parts. So like I said, there's a back panel, I think 3 5x7s, 3 strips, and 3 tray liners. So those are going to each be a column here with allocated, this is where I'm going to have to zoom out, so sorry, allocated little ones per row. So we have store number 12 here, who's might be getting all of these parts, might be getting some of these parts, and we're manually going in and plotting in those 1s, 2s, 3s, whatever it is. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and do a VLOOKUP, and the VLOOKUP assortment code, the CPF fixture code, has to be pulled under that blue block or the brand description part. So, and I did practice this, but we all know VLOOKUPs won't work when you're training someone or when you're presenting. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do my VLOOKUP. So fun. I told you I'm gonna do every step. We have a store number, and then I want that CPF fixture code here, so I'm highlighting all the way to the column that I want to pull. Come back here, and that's column 8, so you can see right here, that little puny spot says 8C. I know I'm pulling in column 8, and we're gonna type false, don't ask me why, it just works, and hit yes.
It's more
So as you can
exact match. False is exact, true is close.
Yeah. So glad you're here. Okay, so you can see that it pulled in a CPF code right there. So if I went back to the raw distro, I would see that store number 12 gets a fleet tower. So I can come here and I can just drop it all down. Right now it's a code, as you see up here. It's not an actual value. So I need to copy everything that's highlighted, and I need to paste these as values. Where's paste? There. We'll go to values. Now you can see that changed up here to an actual value of what I want it to be. It's not just a formula that I don't need. I'm gonna go ahead and keep my column completely highlighted. And basically we have the entire Sephora store list on our templates. But this tower might not be going to every single store. So if that code is not on the raw distro, it's just gonna pull in a hashtag NA. And I don't want those. Those are not codes to me, I don't need them. So I'm gonna go ahead up here to search, and I'm gonna do a replace. And it's always hashtag NA, that's just why we know. Or pound sign, whatever it's called. I'm so hip. So we'll go ahead and I want to pull all the NAs, and I wanna replace them with nothing. I don't need anything in that section. So we'll replace all, and it's telling me it has 33 replacements. Cool. So now I can go ahead and I want to make sure my filters are across all. That is a big step. And I want to bring everything I pulled to the top, so ascending. So this should have pulled everything from my raw distro, and the way that I can check that is, as we know, each Sephora store has a unique store number to it. So knowing that, I should have a unique sum if it pulled in everything for me. So I can go ahead and highlight the first store here. I have all my towers to the top. And I'm gonna scroll down to the last part here that says tower, that pulled in a code of some sort. It's a lot of stores that we sent this to. Okay, so there. That gave me a unique sum, which is right down here, and the store count. So this pulled in 641 stores, and that unique sum for the store numbers is right there, that wild number. So what I'll do is I'll go to my raw distro, and I'm just QCing that everything was pulled in correctly. I'll go to my raw distro and I'll do the same thing. I'll go to the store number, and I'll scroll all the way down and highlight those. And this is telling me that there's 643 stores on this distro, so I'm missing 2 stores that pulled in from my template. That's where it gets tricky, is now I have to go in and try to figure out which 2 stores for some reason didn't pull in. Typically it's a new store, so it's highlighted in yellow, but I mean, we don't really know without just kind of fact checking and making sure. If there was one store that was missing, there's a cool little trick. You can take the sum here on our raw distro and the sum on our template, subtract them, and that will give you the exact store number that it missed. It's kind of a fun little trick. I'm not gonna go in and investigate for this purpose, but I just know on here that 2 stores are missing. I'd have to figure that out and manually add them in. Yeah, Katie?
Afterwards, I'll teach you how to find those 2
Oh
stores.
my God.
Call me. Oh, you don't have time to data requested.
What's on the, and
Yeah.
you might do like a highlight duplicate.
Yeah, so what she's saying, this is probably more helpful for the print side, but what you can do is, I think we do the same thing, but we'll see. So you can take the raw distro store numbers. I like to just call it what it is. And do a filter here. And I want this to be ascending. I want them in order, just because you'll see why. And then I would take this from our template. Yeah.
We'll give you some tricks after this.
Thank
Okay,
you
just
so
pause,
much.
move on.
But basically you would copy and paste that here.
No, you're not doing this anymore. We'll help you.
And then you would just go side by side and be like, what store am I missing?
We'll
Basically.
we'll help you.
Yeah,
We got you.
thanks. So anyway,
Another
that's
day
that.
employed.
Okay, so then, let's just say it pulled in everything beautifully, our sums add up, our store count adds up. Now we can go to actually cooking our parts. So I just kind of put this one in here so I don't have to type everything out. But we have, in the actual cooking part now, I'm gonna go ahead and hide this, we don't need it. So I can make this a little bigger. All right, so like I said before, each part that we're gonna actually be shipping out is gonna be a column on our distros. So I have all my assortment codes in here now. Now it's just plotting these parts, so our back panel, our strips, our tray liners, our 5x7s, and instructions. And we're gonna be plotting our ones of which stores should receive which parts. This can get a little tricky with fleet or tip or US or Canada or Quebec that all need different parts. Our distro would be expanded, basically doubled of what I'm gonna be cooking right now. And we have to go in and manually add in those ones as we see fit for Canada stores, Quebec stores, tip stores, fleet stores, etc. I'm not gonna do that for this exercise, but we can kind of show you like a high level distro showing all those things. So right now we have our UCQ fleet tower back panel, and I would basically go to every store here. So this is US, Canada, Quebec, obviously, but I'm gonna go in, so we have our fleet tower assortment here, and I'm gonna plot our ones all the way up to, oops, my apologies, all the way up to the fleet store. And then the next column would be our tip back panel. So just for time's sake, I'm gonna go ahead and just change this. I know the sizes are off, but, and I would go ahead and plot my ones for any tip store. Okay?
But obviously, I imagine that this would be a lot more time consuming if it's different for US, like you said, US, Canada, or Quebec, because then you have 3 different sections for each one of those, and imagine like on a different distro, we only have 2 assortments here, right? Like tower and tip tower. Like when you have, 10 assortments, things get a little bit more tricky.
Sorry, quick question. Do you
Yes.
guys manually enter, are you ever copying and pasting like your top columns of what you guys are ordering? Is that all manual that you're entering versus like a paste from an order that just goes? It's all manual.
Yeah.
So what's like the longest one you guys have?
We'll show you. So I'm just gonna go through like an easier assortment just to kind of show you what we do for each column, and then we'll show you like bigger distros of what was cooked in every single column.
So are you then taking best guess, I guess, on art variances? Because sometimes we don't know if there's going to be a difference in the US and Canada, so we're kind of doing it
Right.
twice, at least twice, right?
Yeah. That's why like Dior has really done that a lot, where they combine US, Canada, and Quebec. They'll have, Jim, quit laughing. Dior has been really painful lately, but so I'll like cook assuming that there's gonna be pricing on the strip. So US will have its own, Canada will have its own, Quebec will have their own. And then I get the strips and all of it's combined onto one, which is like, cool, that seems so easy, but now I have to go back in and redo what I just did, basically. But in order to, which Hillary will show you too, in order to get like our estimates going and all that stuff, we do kind of have to cook earlier than we may want to or need to for updates that we just don't know yet.
And then we may have to recook again once we see the
Yeah.
artwork and find out that our quantities are bad because there's a difference in artwork by region or specific assortment sometimes.
Or materials too, like again, Dior really loves their vinyls, and like we don't necessarily know that if we don't have a rendering, and their renderings always just say FPO, we don't know what's on it, so,
We'll re-estimate those in a lot of instances. We send out the revised billing sheet and it may or may not be sent to the client.
Yeah, and when we do that, we are like recooking this stuff, like we are doing these steps over and over and over again, depending on the changes.
When is this distro due to the T1 team, Kitty team?
What does it do?
What does it do to them?
Oh, when?
Like, what's the lead time that you
Prior
guys
to
are?
shipping.
Prior to shipping.
Oh, I think we have to have it to planning 2 weeks prior to shipping, and then, yeah, it's a whole.
But we have to have it done well before that.
Oh, yeah.
For-
You guys,
Right.
For
6
order,
weeks in
because we need to
advance.
know the quantities
Ten
for
weeks in
ordering our
advance.
parts, like this is what we use to enter our hub orders, so. it's
So
like-
we're doing this really like at the estimating process, which we'll show you in the next step too, but this is cooked really early on, so there can be a lot of changes.
Also, I think it's important to say that if a brand wants, like, we're creating a preliminary estimate to go into prototyping, Sephora will upload a preliminary distro.
Yeah.
We also then have to go back and redo this entire thing once we get a final distro from Sephora that actually is the finalized store list. So on top of doing it for estimating, and we're assuming what graphics are gonna be broken out in what way, we then have to go back once we get the artwork, and we have to, again, redo it after we get the final distro from Sephora.
We have made a lot of like data improvements on our distro. So before we used to have to manually type in the size. We do have to manually type in the material and then our hub numbers. But we used to have to manually type in the size, and then we have to manually type in our nomenclature down here. Where now if you see, like if you watch this column here, if I copy and paste this, look at row 27 when I do it, it populates that SKU for me, and it really just creates less human error on our end, which is huge, again, for our data team, for the low key, for inventory purposes, instructions, everything.
There's been a lot to downplay this distro to other groups. If you put 2 spaces, there's something in the hub or the collateral shop somewhere that has an extra character that loves to hang out in there. So when they copy it, it's a character return, which was messing up inventory in WMS. It was putting this big giant space. And we had SKUs in WMS that had literally like 25 spaces in the middle of them, and we couldn't figure out why we couldn't get them to new stores. And it was because of this character return in the job ticket writing process. And
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
we really had to like dive into who uses what information.
Yeah, and so like, again, for a Dior example, they have the scent J'adore. So if I were ordering a part, I used to put like Dior J'adore, so I knew that it was at a glance, it was different than Miss Dior or whatever else. But J'adore has an apostrophe in it. We can't use that for data purposes. So we have to be very diligent on what we're putting in here, and it won't, I don't think that it'll actually populate like a size down here, which is your indication that something in the data is wrong. So like if I were to copy and paste this, so you can see our size here. Sorry if it's really puny, but if there's a width, space, x, space, height. If I were to remove those, it doesn't populate our size anymore. So I know something is wrong in my nomenclature here that I have to review and adjust to be able to populate that size and have it be correct. So there's a lot of cool little features in our distros that can help us with that manual entering. Okay, so I'll kind of just go over these quick. So we have our back panel. Again, I'm not going to change the sizing and things. We'll just go over at high level. Tray liners, and then 5x7s. And instruction sheet. Okay, so another thing that we have to do, especially for the estimating part, is you'll see that finishing section up there. We need to be able to tell our estimating team, and it's helpful for our kitting team, if there's any finishing, so tape. This one has a score from the front, magnet, bump-ons, anything like that. Obviously, our estimating team will need to estimate it properly, but our kitting team, it's a second check for them to be like, hey, does this have tape on it? Does this have magnet? So we're not just fully, having to look at that every step of the way. So there's some cool formulas. It's not on this distro because I just prepared this one for this, but there are some cool formulas that we have on our distro that if you type in like tape, because our tray learners have tape on it. Oh, it did it. It'll populate that color for you. So it's just another like highlight and call out for our kitting team. They love a good color coordination, which I see why. Because with the distros they get, they have to have it. Okay, so then we would manually enter in our materials here. Once our orders are placed, we would put those in. We would need to allocate our ones like I said, for every single part here. So we have our fleet back panel that's allocated, our tip back panel, and then we would need the strips. So here's kind of a fun little thing. So our magnet strips can be kiss cut in a sheet. So store can receive 3 versions of a strip in one sheet. It's beautiful, it's lovely, they shouldn't lose it ever, but they do. For our cardstock pieces, those obviously can't be kiss cut, those are through cut. So we need to actually put in here how many per store they need. So like with our strips, even though they're 3 versions, they're getting 1 set. So we would put a 1 in the strips section. For our tray liners, we just need to know these are cardstock. Kitting has to go ahead and pull 3 on the line per store. So that's kind of a little different thing. And again, we work very closely with Kitting. They just kind of changed that in the last year of how they want to see that. That is one big call out, and that obviously will triple our quantities that are then populated at the bottom here. So Haley Ray would know better than me, but there is a very detailed SOP going over our distros and what each row and column mean, which you can review in your free time if you really want. But this is kind of what we'll use. So these auto-populate, as you can see, I allocated my ones. So now I have FGI that's auto-populated. So when I go to order in the hub, I'm gonna order 31 FGI. And then my total quantity is gonna be 338. And these are really the main 2 rows that we use when we're ordering our parts. We have to cook all of this, get everything ready, and then we can go into the hub and actually order our parts. So this is that same update, like the real actual update, fully cooked. So I have my order numbers. I have the materials here. It's kind of small, but I had to add in here for kitting as well that we have gold we used gold vinyl on our pieces, and then I have the tape in the finishing, I have the score. Up here I have the label that we're gonna be putting on these poly bags, the quantity per label, and then one big thing too, for our instructions, we have to have no SKU because these don't go into FGI at all. They used to, but they don't anymore. And then we have to go ahead and manually enter in 0 for FGI down here and here. Again, the data team will love that we keep doing that. But those are 2 big steps that we have to do once we're done cooking. And then I think Haley Ray has a really big distro that she could show you guys. But I kind of just wanted to go over high level of what it takes to really create all of these.
Haley, real quick. So for the fixture team, you can see sometimes this helps you realize when you say, can we get an estimate in 4 hours? Maybe that's not possible, right? Because there's so much work that has to go into, it's not as easy as just asking the estimating team to estimate. They have to go through this whole distro process. And it's nice to see how much work does go into that. And the other thing that's interesting, I think, the SKU, right? That's your kit alpha.
Mm-hmm.
By how they're putting together their pre-kits, I guess. In the fixture world, you guys have it in your drawings, right? You've got your drawing assemblies and then your parts and then your pieces that make up the parts. In this case, they're doing this manually. Yours is all in SolidWorks. So hopefully with PIM, this will all come together and improve the process overall.
We have to go in and add the ink configuration and the tape linear.
We'll get to,
you're putting that in.
I know, that's so crazy, right? It's in the ticket
And
the district. I know.
So
We're
it's
gonna-
just another step,
it's a
but
goal.
apparently Haley Ray didn't know that.
So here's like the Dior 1117 tower I just did. This is our actual distro that it's shipped on. Like I said, there's multiple brands. You can see these little blue blockers, we call them, that kind of section off the brands. So it just kind of scrolls over and you can just see, this is what I would say, not even really an average, but a full kitting distro looks like. And then not only that, we have the Kohl's section that we need to do all of that on as well. We also need to call out if it's shared, if we have a US and Kohl's part, we need to let kitting know that it's shared and then adjust FGI as well manually. So.
Okay. I get to show and tell skincare distro. should we just, yeah, let's go with 22585. Okay, so this distro looks a little beefier, doesn't it? We've got a bunch of planned information in here, because you can see I'm on a main tab. So all the print PMs, we know what a main tab is, but before it can be broken out into different planned tabs for these different cartons, you see we've got a main carton, magnet carton, small back panel carton, then we've got some news stores, some Kohl's. We start with these master tabs. So in the case of the skincare team, skincare PMs, if you're cooking distros, raise your hand. Okay, all these folks are combining all of their projects into one document on a specific date so it can be combined and then uploaded to the kitting planning team. Fragrance, it's a little bit different. I believe you guys are all still sharing the same document and entering in your information there. So there's the degree of coordination to be able to get all of these parts.
And this is a normal week, so this was our 1.5 update, so this was just a standard week
I don't
of
even
graphics.
think I started at the end. You guys dizzy yet? So imagine, if you will, setting up a kitting line with all of these individual parts. Every single alpha code or column within this distro gets a unique place on the kitting line. Yeah, it's a big one. So this one here is where everybody started combining all of their brand information in here. So Haley kind of gave the tour already of like the store numbers, doing the VLOOKUPs. You can see we've got this information here. But I do want to call out that in addition to using our kitting distro for the obvious, which is kitting, we also use this documentation for estimating. There exists a TBG RFE document. Well, we are lucky enough to be able to use our kitting distro instead of having to transpose that exact same information into another document to then be estimated. So that's a really big win on the print side, instead of having that redundancy to transpose all of this information. But what that did mean was we needed to make some data improvements to our kitting distro by being able to include things like our configurations. So if we have standard CMYK, that's pretty simple. But we also need to call out when things are white plus CMYK, when things are first and second surface. So all of this stuff can be estimated properly. And as we know, going through like the prototyping process, ink configurations can change, which would require us to re-estimate some certain things. But I'd also like to call out that we have a row here for linear inches of finishing material. That's pretty important. So anytime you see a kitting code for something that has a finishing material, here we've got our 1-inch 060 magnet, you will notice that we also have a value in here for linear inches to help our estimating team get these parts estimated accurately. So by being able to create additional rows for us to utilize this specific document to be able to estimate from, we're actually cutting down on the amount of work that we have to do slightly. But then I'm going to scroll all the way down here and just note that whenever we're doing an estimate, we are using this specific line. This is our Perry quantity. So really what it does is it takes the sum of our store number lines, which would be our Sephora quantity down here, and it adds our 7% overs. So by the time it comes to do a billing sheet, so long as we don't have to be super specific with the part breakdowns, which in some billing sheets we do have to, in some instances we are able to copy and paste that Perry line right into the billing sheet. I don't know how often that's happening across all teams, but it is an efficiency when we are able to use it. Though I did want to call out that this is really the only line we're using for estimating purposes. We do have a bunch of other lines that do some heavy lifting as far as when we need to enter FGI into a production ticket so that it can be split off at a specific point in production and then sent to the warehouse. We also have to call out when we have news store sets, and we will now combine any item that's formatted for news stores and its FGI into a polybag and label situation, eliminating the need to have parts broken out from production and sent to the warehouse, and then kitted separately and then sent to the warehouse when they are identical parts. So another nice win. It's been kind of a complicated transition, but I think the team's getting it, so it is working out for us. But additionally, I did want to call out that you will see the orange formatting in the distro, and that is all indicating new store inventory. So if you'll humor me again, I'll just scroll through all of this. So in addition to these parts that are listed in white, in order to be able to serve the new store team with full kitted sets for all of these graphics, everything in orange is an additional step where our team goes through all of our art files and creates complete sets of strips, of 5x7s, of tester rails, of pretty much anything imaginable that we are going to be sending to a new store. So while we may only be sending these specific parts that have the white description to stores, we're doing a lot of additional work to be able to make sure that we're sending accurate items to our new stores. In some instances, if we're updating all strips in an assortment, we can make sure that they're captured in the new store formatting, so it's not like every white column is going to have a partnering orange column. Sometimes they'll be one and the same and they'll be orange, but in many instances, if we're updating 3 out of the 4 strips, we'll have our 3 that were being sent to direct to door, and then we'll have our full set of 4 that's being sent to the DC for new store inventory. Whew, gosh, that was a big one. Okay, so I know we've just got a few minutes left, so I'm not gonna go through how we upload a print distro for estimating, but the lead time on a typical, just single brand print and kit estimate is 1 business day. If we can give our estimating partners more time to do them, we will. Oftentimes, we're not able to, but that is typical. I know when we were doing bigger projects like bright lights, they needed a week to be able to turn, an entire store's worth of graphics, which isn't unreasonable. But for the most part, the standard that has been given to us by estimating is 1 business day.
But just a note on that too, that is 1 business day once it's actually entered. We have to do all of these steps prior to giving them the 1 business day.
Yes,
exactly. So it's not just 1 day.
Right, right. Exactly. After looking at this, it could take a few days.
And then we still have to plug all this data into a billing sheet too. And that can take some time, especially if it has to be broken out by assortment and by country and by coal. So just another thing to bear in mind that it can, especially if we have common parts on here, because then if they're common on here, technically we still have to break them out as individual items by assortment. I'm sure you guys have to do that too, but just something to bear in mind. It's not quite as easy as just copying and pasting. You actually have to manually go in and separate it out.
Yep, exactly. And many of these parts, kind of too, like Haley touched on, are split between freestanding and coal, so that is just another layer of, all right, we may not have these on the same billing sheet even, to be cognizant of that. Any questions on this? Are you happy I didn't show you the retrofit distro?
Yes.